Hello, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? Yes, good morning. Can you hear me? Okay, thank you. There was some problem actually by joining the given link. So I have created a new link. Sorry for keeping you waiting. Um, Please do one thing. Just put your name, enrollment number, and study center code in the chat box so that I can give you the required attendance. Thank you for waiting patiently. Um, we are a bit late, but let us uh, just catch the flow and start discussing the details. Today we will discuss the block 2 of MPC 5, MPC 005, which includes the types of research. Now, types of research that will include actually the survey research, the ex post facto research, experimental research, and case study. So, without much ado, let us begin. The first topic in block 2 is survey research. Now, what is survey research? Let us discuss that first. Uh, if I consider the definition of survey research, we will find that it is a non-experimental method. You must remember, those who have attended the class yesterday, you must have remembered that an experiment in a psychological science, behavioral science, it includes a controlled observation in laboratory setup, and there are different types of variables included there: independent variable, dependent variable, and extraneous variable. We have also discussed about the controlling methods of extraneous variables. That means we can manipulate independent variable and we can keep constant or eliminate or randomize or match the extraneous variables in order to make an experiment, psychological experiment, successful. Now, since psychology is a social science, a behavioral science, not every behavior occurs in laboratory setup. It is not possible to observe every behavior properly in a laboratory setup. So we require a non-experimental setup also for studying this subject. Now, this method of survey research. Survey research is a non-experimental method. It is a descriptive research method. It is one of the quantitative method used for studying large sample. Suppose we need to study all the graduate females between the year between the age group of 18 and 30 in the city of Calcutta. So there are that will be a large sample, that will be a large group. If we consider the total number of females, that is a huge number. We need to take a little portion of that number, which we will state as sample in technical term. And we may question, we may interview them, we may set some predetermined questions and demand answer from that selected sample. In this way, we may conduct the survey research. This survey research helps the researcher collects data with the help of standardized questionnaires or interviews, which is administered on a sample of respondents from a population. So, basically, survey research is collecting data from different respondents in a real life setting. and it may use interview method, or there is some predetermined established some questionnaires, some schedule of questions which can be followed for collecting data. Now let us discuss the steps of uh, survey research. There are eight steps for conducting a survey research. First of all, we need to determine the aims and objectives of the study. That means why we are conducting a survey research at the first place. All of you are now studying in the first year of MAPC. You need to do project work, dissertation in the second year. For that purpose, this paper of research methodology is very important. You need to study this paper very carefully, so that while you are doing the dissertation, you are not left clueless. So determination of aims and objectives of the study is the most important thing. You first know, in the first place, you should know that why you are going to conduct a particular research. You must have some uh, some objectives or aims in your mind while you are choosing a topic for your research. First, you need to make yourself clear about that. Next, in the next step, you need to define the populations to be studied. Just now, I have said that I want to take data on all the graduate females between 18 to 30 years of age group in the city of Calcutta. So that is my population. The number of females, the total number of females, graduate females between this particular age group in this city is my population. So you also need to define your population very clearly, so that you can select samples from that population. Step number three is to design and construct a survey. You need to write down, or you need to make some schedule for collecting data. You need to prepare that. Like for example, I must say there may be a general information schedule about the samples, about the general information of the sample you are going to take. In that general information schedule, you may ask about his or her name, age, gender, educational level, locality, and all the other general aspects of that particular person. Suppose you need to take 50 or 100 females for your survey research. So for the 100 females, you need to prepare a general information schedule first. General information schedule helps us to know about the person. After that, you will just design the way you will collect the data. Are you going to conduct an interview? Is it a face-to-face interview? Is the interview structured, or it will be unstructured? Structured interview means preparing questions beforehand and just asking that particular questions and obtain specific answers. But in unstructured interview, where you just ask a question, and based on the answer of that questions, you may you may give some questions impromptu, some instant questions based on the answer of the previous question. That interview is unstructured. Or you may say the person, not you may not ask any specific question. You just say something about this topic, say something about yourself. That is unstructured. You are not asking any specific question. So you need to think before you will collect the data, that how you are going to collect that. Are you going to give some conduct some interview? Are you going to give some questionnaire? Are you going to give some schedule, some rating scale, some some checklist? So you need to design that first. After that, you will select a representative sample. What does this representative sample means? Means the characteristics that you have used for defining your population. What characteristics you have used for defining your population in this case? You took graduate females between 18 to 30 years in the city of Calcutta. So you will select sample. Likewise, you will select only females. You will select females not below 18 years and not above 30 years. You will select only from the city of Calcutta. Then only it will become the representative sample. And more precisely, it will become more representative if you can divide this metro city into at least 4 zones, east, west, north, and south, and take equal numbers of females from each zone, then it will be a properly representative sample. Then you will administer the tools you have already selected. That means either interview schedule or questionnaire or checklist or rating scale, whatever, you will administer that on the sample. Then in the step 6, you will analyze and interpret the findings of the survey. Then you will prepare in the step 7 a report of the survey, and then you will publish it. You will communicate this finding to everyone. Now the 3 major ways that can be used for collecting data, we have already mentioned that it is written in your study material. First one is sampling. Sampling itself can be a tool. Just now that I have mentioned here, the way you are doing the sampling, the way you are selecting the persons from population, that will be itself an instrument for survey research method. But how you are doing this sampling? And the next thing is the questionnaire. I have already discussed. And there is interview. I have already discussed what is interview. Interview actually is a face-to-face communication between 2 persons. One is taking that interview and one is giving that. And there can be structured interviews, there can be unstructured interviews, and there can be telephonic interviews. Thank you everyone for putting your name and enrollment number and study center code. Please put your complete study center code, not just the first 2 digits. Please put the complete study center code. Okay, Rushti has asked that, ma'am, can you kindly give examples of structured and unstructured interviews? Just now I have said that in structured interviews, you may ask that, what is your opinion about the upcoming national education policy? That can be an unstructured interview. Actually, there is a gradation. There can be rigidly structured interviews, there can be semi-structured interviews, and there can be totally unstructured interviews. interviews. In structured interviews, there is very specific question. Do you suppose you may say that, do you think that national education upcoming national education policy is beneficial, is useful for students in distance learning? So that will be a very specific question of structured interview. Um, for unstructured interview, that what I have said, that what is your opinion about the upcoming national education policy 2020? That can be an example of unstructured interview. Mr. Pradeep Day, he has asked that what is descriptive research. Descriptive research is something where we describe the behavior of the sample. Now, I cannot answer here every single questions you have asked from somewhere, because I need to cover the syllabus first. And we are running late already 15 minutes, so I will just stretch this thing up to 12:15, so that I can cover at least most of the block 2. Let us return to the study material. Well, there are two types of survey research: longitudinal and cross-sectional. Longitudinal survey research means that you are studying a particular sample group for a long time. This longitudinal and cross-sectional method is particularly applicable, particularly useful in developmental psychology, where you are studying children. You may study a group of children, say of age group of 3 years, for a long period of 1 year or 2 year. That means up to they reach their 5 years age. Or you may study three groups of children, one from 3 years, not three groups, actually you may study six groups also in cross-sectional approach. That you may take a group of children of 3 years, a group of children of 3.5 years, a group of children of 4 years, like 4.5 years and 5 years, like that. Five group of children you may take. That means you are covering all the age group included in the longitudinal period, but you are covering it simultaneously with different group of children. In longitudinal approach, you are observing, you are doing research with same group of sample over a long period of time. But in cross-sectional approach, you are taking a small portion of each time period covered in the research. And according to the aim or purpose of research, I am telling you over and over repeatedly that aim and objective of research is most important. While doing the dissertation, you must know the topic you are selecting, the topic you are choosing, why you are doing that, what is the purpose of your research. Then everything will be clear to you. The subsequent steps will be clear to you. That why I am taking housewives and why I am studying anxiety and depression in them. Why I am taking school children, I am studying, their achievement motivation. There must be some rationale for choosing a topic, and that will determine that how you are going to select the sample, what kind of tools you are going to use, and how you will analyze that. Everything depends upon the aims and objective of the research. That is very important. So this is all about, more or less all about survey research. There are some advantages and disadvantages of survey research. What are the advantages? well, it is convenient, it is less time taking and economical for the researchers, because you can approach a large number of individuals at a time. You can conduct survey research on a large number of person at a time, so it is convenient and less time taking. Also, with the longitudinal approach, it can be conducted for a longer period of time, which gives a chance of knowing about the latest changes or advancements that might have taken place in the agenda under study. Suppose you were studying the effect of what to say, effect of online learning on children's study habit. So in that case, if you study a group of children uh, from year 2021, suppose you have studied from 2021 and you were still studying them in this 2023, then you can also notice the changes, that when there is no more lockdown and there is beginning of offline classes, that what is the status of online learning now, what is the status of online learning in 2021. You can compare that if you continue the survey for a longer period of time. Another advantage is that the researcher gets a full chance to well organize and present the reasons for the study, to get full and honest answers from the respondent. Naturally, they can in any this is a common advantage of any kind of research, including survey research, that is to well organize and present reasons of the study to get full and honest answers from the respondents. While you were doing the interview or you were administering the questionnaires, you must say your respondents that you are going to take some opinion about their behavior, about some issues. You are going to observe certain aspects of their behavior, and you are expected to get full and honest answers. And however, this method also has some disadvantages. What is that? Maintaining the privacy of responses of each respondent under a group interview is questionable. When you are administering some interview questions, some direct questions to a group, then there may be hesitation among the respondents that whether their privacy will be maintained or not, and that may also restrict full and honest answers from them. And there may be high attrition rate of the respondents that may hinder the longitudinal based studies. In the due course of the study, some may move away from the location, some may fall ill, some may disease. That will affect the sample of the study. And there some precautions can be taken while preparing questionnaires, that the items of the questions should be clear, specific, relevant, and short. And the respondents should also be capable enough to answer the questions. Researchers should have full empathy with the respondents and should avoid those questions which might have a negative impact on the respondent. So one must be very careful while designing while designing the interview schedule for the respondents of the particular study, so that it might not affect might not affect the sample negatively. It must be clearly communicable to the sample. That is very important. And also it should be considered that The respondents must have the capacity to answer the questions. If you ask a very difficult concept of physics to some common persons, they may not be able to answer your question, and the objective of your survey will be futile. So you must adhere to the aims and objective of your study, and must ask some clear, specific and relevant questions. Those are short items or questions must be short. Uh, there can be certain difficulties on selecting the type of survey. This is the one of the most critical decisions to be taken. There can be issues on survey instruments, what kind of instruments you are going to take. There can be bias issues. The experimenter, the survey researcher can be biased to some respondent group. It may be positive bias, it may be negative bias, and there may be administrative issues. The cost, the mode of survey, the feasibility of area selected, required time period, all these things can impose certain difficulty on the uh, researcher. After that, we move to um, the second unit, ex post facto research. Now, the ex post facto research, the name suggests, as the name suggests, that ex post facto research takes place when some incident, some event has already occurred. Ex post facto. That means the fact has already taken place. We are examining the fact, we are trying to examine the cause and effect relationship in that established fact. We are trying to analyze the already occurred incident. Prospective, actually, in the forms of research design can be again classified into two: prospective research and retrospective research. In prospective research, the researcher is actually trying to examine the prospective or the future results, that what will happen if I apply these to the respondents. What will happen if I administer some reward and want to observe the changes in learning behavior? That is prospective. You were administering some independent variable. What will happen to a group of psychiatric patients who are administered with drug 1, and some other group of patients with same disease who are administered with drug 2? This is not already taken place. This is prospective research. The effect will take place in future, and you are going to study the effect in future. That is prospective research. In retrospective research design, the researcher tries to trace the history in order to find out the basic reason behind an event. Here, a result has already occurred, and the researcher is trying to find out the causes by going backward in history. Now, naturally, the ex post facto research is a retrospective kind of research uh, where an incident, an event has already taken place, and we are trying to analyze the causes, possible causes behind an effect that has already occurred. The example given here is, suppose the reason behind delinquency. The researcher would try to find out the various events that have occurred and the many possibilities that could have contributed to the concerned delinquent behavior. The expected possibilities, what could be the expected possibilities behind delinquent behavior? It may be lack of discipline at school, at family, at there can be family history, there can be peer effect, there can be effect of neighborhood or socialization. Thus, an ex post facto research can be defined as an empirically based investigation which does not involve the researcher's direct control over the independent variable, because they have already led to effects which can no more be manipulated. Just now I have said about the retrospective research. The conclusions regarding the relationship, the variables are inferred without intervening or varying the independent or dependent variable. Well, this is also a kind of field experiment or field study, this ex post facto kind of research, because you will find it in unit 3. There are different types of experimental research. Some researches take place in the strict controlled environment of laboratory, and some researches take place in real life setting. Ex post facto researches are already, they are in real life setting, and all the most of the researches we do in the in our dissertation or in this kind of classroom research, I mean the dissertation part of your syllabus, all those are, in most cases I am saying, I am repeating, in most cases this is ex post facto research. The things that have already occurred, you are just uh, studying them. You are studying the level of anxiety in the students who are who have given, I can say, who have given the secondary board exam and are preparing for higher secondary standard of study. Uh, you may see the effect of gender on the level of anxiety. This effect of gender is ex post facto because you cannot manipulate gender. You may take two gender of two genders in your sample and compare them. So that is a kind of ex post facto study. Landman in 1988, he gave an example, or sorry, a definition of ex post facto research, which says that it is an experiment in which a researcher, instead of finding a treatment, examines the effect of a naturally occurring treatment after it has occurred. In other words, it is a study that attempts to discover the pre existing causal conditions between groups. Just now I have said, you may take rural and urban students, you may take male and female students, because you can't change the characteristics of the students. That will be an ex post facto research. Now, if I look at the characteristics of the ex post facto research, I can find that the research has a control or a comparison group. That means there you can take a sample where a particular independent variable has not produced any effect till the time, and another group of sample where the independent variable has produced an effect. So there can be a control or a comparison group. The behavior, action, event or treatment or the independent variable of the research cannot be manipulated or changed. That is already stated. The research focuses on the effects, that what has already occurred due to a particular condition, due to the locality of the student, due to the gender difference of the student, what effect has already taken place. we are focusing on that. The research tries to analyze the how and what aspects of the events, that how an event has taken place and what happened when the event has taken place. Also, this kind of research explores possible effects and causes. There are certain differences between an experimental and an ex post facto research. In experimental research, there are rigorous and rigid control over independent variable because it takes place in a laboratory setup and the researcher can directly manipulate the independent variables. But in ex post facto research, there may be the presence of independent variable. There may be some kind of independent variable, but the researcher cannot directly manipulate the independent variables. I have just saying it repeatedly that you cannot manipulate the locality of the sample. You cannot manipulate the gender of the sample. You cannot manipulate the age of the sample. You can include their variations, but you cannot manipulate. You cannot change a person's gender from male to female. You cannot change a 18 years boy to a 30 years man. You cannot do that. So in ex post facto research, we consider variables which we cannot change directly. Principle of randomization is applicable for the experimental research. What is randomization? It is the opportunity for uh, including every single element of the population into the sample, equal opportunity. Every single element of the population should get equal opportunity for including in the sample. The way we can ensure it is randomization. I do not take some person because I like them or because they sit in the front row of the class. Not like that. I take all the enrollment numbers you have given in the chat box, and I just write all the enrollment numbers in a blindfold sheet, and I just pick up the one. Suppose from 100 such sheets I want to pick up 10, so I pick up any 10 without looking at the number. The way I have selected the sample here is randomization. This can be done in a laboratory setup, but in ex post facto research where already the effect has taken place, I cannot randomize the independent variable even. I cannot randomize the sample. Randomize in the sense in context of independent variable. I cannot do that. Next, from the context of manipulation of variable, in experimental research, other variables, other extraneous variables can be controlled, but in ex post facto research, it cannot be controlled. You can only control your sample. And regarding interpretation, it is easier to interpret or infer relationship between independent and dependent variables because other conditions are controlled in a laboratory setup. You can easily identify you are yourself manipulating the independent variable. So you can easily establish the cause and effect relationship between IV and DV. But in an ex post facto research, there are many variables which you cannot control. So it is a bit difficult to interpret or infer relationship between the independent and dependent variables. And there can be more than one possibilities or cause for a particular effect. Still, it is useful because we can use it in a real life situation. Now, for inferring causal relationship, the researcher must take into consideration certain aspects. First of all, there must be associative variation. That means if one variable varies, the other variable also varies. The variation, the nature of variation can be if one variable varies in a suppose it increases in value, the other variables may increase or may decrease or may remain unchanged. If one variable changes and the other remain unchanged, there is no associative variation. But if there is an increment or decrement of associated variable, or the variables we are supposed we are thought to be thought to be associated, or they are supposed to be associated, those variables, if they increase or decrease simultaneously, if one decreases and another increases, or the vice versa simultaneously, then there is an associative variation that we need to consider. There should be systematic order of events. That means a particular events or process follows a consistent sequence of order. If variable x causes y, then variable x must occur before or simultaneously with y and not after it. There must be a specific sequence, and that sequence must be consistent. Also, there must be absence of other causes. When you are selecting samples, when you are collecting data, you need to ensure that other than the particular independent variable you are observing, there cannot be other causes. Suppose, for example, only you just assume that only motivation helps the learning behavior. Then you need to control other factors associated with learning behavior. That is the intelligence level, the medium of instruction, the standard of education. All you need to be kept constant so that you can focus only on the motivational level. You may not introduce any reward for increasing or decreasing motivation in ex post facto research. There is no need. You may take one group of highly motivated students, another group of students with low motivation. That could be an ex post facto research. Now, there are certain steps of ex post facto research as well. First is determining the problem. Second is literature review. Literature review is a very important step. Literature review means to study all the related or similar literature and relevant studies, which may help in further analysis, prediction, and conclusion of causal relationship between the variables under study. Suppose you have selected this topic, that the effect of motivation, learning behavior, student group, high school students. Then you will search in your search engine, in internet search engine. You will search in library, in your other sources, in books, what past researchers have done with all these things, with high school students motivation and learning behavior. You must know about those researches in order to gain an idea about the present problem and the uh, purpose of conducting your present study. Unless you study the existing literature of research, you cannot determine that. The next step is step 3 is formulation of hypothesis. That means hypothesis we have already discussed yesterday, that it is an tentative statement describing the relationship between independent and dependent variables, which we assume beforehand that this will be the cause and that will be the effect, and if this thing varies, then this thing varies. Then we verify that hypothesis in the course of research. So we need to formulate hypothesis before we conduct research. Then we design the way we will collect the data, designing the approach. Then we will verify, then we will examine the validity of the result, the validity of the research, that uh, the researcher need to be cautious regarding the extent to which their findings should be valid and significant and helpful in interpreting and drawing inferences from the obtained results. Validity also I have discussed yesterday, that you need to know that uh, what kind of studies you are doing, how you are, what you are trying to measure, that you should be clear about. And the next step, the last step, is interpretation and conclusion, where you will analyze the collected data, and you will analyze the information collected, and you will interpret, you will infer certain knowledge, some certain kind of information from the already existing information. There are certain strengths and weaknesses of ex post facto research. What are the strengths? It is a very relevant method where the variables cannot be manipulated or altered. It can include many sociological and educational variables since it is applied in real life setting. It is more useful than the experimental research, as it can be used in analyzing a cause on basis of the effect, which is impossible in an experimental research. It is less time consuming because it is economical. Uh, it gives a chance to the researcher to analyze on the basis of his personal opinion and then come out of the best possible conclusion, because we assume beforehand that what may be the causes of effect produced, already produced effect. But there are certain, definitely there are certain weaknesses or limitations. What are those? The researcher cannot manipulate the independent variable. That means overall we may say about the weakness of the ex post facto research is that we do not have total control on the procedure. If we do not have the total control on the procedure, we do not have the total control over the result also. We cannot, the researcher cannot randomly assign the subjects to different groups. They cannot manipulate the independent variables. The researcher may not be able to provide a reasonable explanation for the relationship between the IV and DV and the study. Those are the limitations of the ex post facto research. And there is a concept of post hoc fallacy. The concept of post hoc fallacy says that it is a tendency of human to arrive at conclusions on predictions when two factors go together. One is cause, the other is effect. Whenever it is the nature of human beings, that whenever two things go together, we say that this is caused by this. Because delinquency and parenthood go together, we may come to a conclusion that delinquency is the effect and parenthood is the cause. Only bad parenting has caused delinquency, but it may not be the only factor for delinquency. In reality, the peer group may also have some contribution in the delinquency process of the child. So that is called post hoc fallacy, where we assume beforehand that only this can be the cause of this particular effect. In practice, it is not. Now, before going to Unit 3, I am going to Unit 4, because while discussing Unit 1 and 2, I gave certain ideas about Unit 3 about the experimental method. The only thing left in Unit 3 is research design, which we may come later. We may come to this thing later. Uh, just uh, let us go to the Unit 4 case study. Um, I guess it is better to leave the experimental design part. Let us first finish the 4 units of 4 blocks of MPC 5 first, and in the rest 2 classes, let us discuss the research design. It will take some time. Uh, Now let us come to case study part. In the field of social sciences, case study is very important tool for a good research methodology. It can be applied on the single subject, small group, large group, a class within a school within a city, or a particular event. Depth study about a particular unit of observation. Typically, the sample of case study is small. Often it is single individual. We call them a case, or it can be a small group. Suppose if we say the MAPC student of uh, Ashutosh College, MAPC students of Women's College, Calcutta. We take them together. It is a small group. Small group in the sense it may be less than 30, or it may be large. It can be 90 or 100 or 150, but together taken, they will be considered as a case. And we can study them in depth. A case study is an in-depth study. It is a sort of longitudinal examination of a single subject or event. It may be descriptive, it may be explanatory. It is not very much different from a survey method, but instead of collecting data about few factors from a large number of units, the researcher makes a deep and intensive study of a single subject or a small group of subject, or any group of subject which is manageable number, where those unit or units of observation, they can be studied in a in-depth manner. The most appropriate field of case study is clinical psychology. In clinical psychology, a person will come to you with certain certain symptoms, certain behavioral difficulties, some problems. While you are doing case study, you will start from taking information before the birth of that person, that while the person was not even born, if there was any difficulty, if it is possible to get the answer, case study begins from there. If it is not possible, if there is no one to give answer for those questions, we may leave that part, but we shall try to probe deep for knowing that person fully. In survey also, we try to get information about persons, but in survey we focus on limited aspects of behavior. In case study, we do a full and complete uh, observation of a single person or a small group of person. It is limited in scope, but more exhaustive, more informative as compared to survey. Suppose a teacher may use case study to identify the causes of failure in mathematics of a group of 3 students. It is written here, it could be 10 students also, in class 5 of a village primary school who continuously failed in all the unit tests. The teacher will study such cases in detail. The teacher will study the home environment of the students, the learning procedure of the students, the intelligence level of the students, everything, parent-child relationships ship of those students, everything the teacher will study in order to get the explanation for such kind of failure. Uh, so that he or she can take a decision about the remedial measures which may be taken to overcome the problem of failure. Uh, what is the nature of case study? The case study is in depth. It is descriptive. Um, it can infer. It can make inference from quantitative case study data. It can provide statistical framework. It is a research strategy for empirical inquiry that investigates a phenomenon within its real life context. It may mean case study research may mean a single case study or multiple case studies that can include quantitative evidence that can relies on multiple sources of evidence and benefits from the prior development of theoretical propositions. It is a systematic and scientific way of perceiving or examining events, for collecting data, analyzing information, and preparing report. But there could be some subjective biases also, since uh, the researcher uh, is observing the student or the client or any group of sample or any single subject in depth, there can be observational errors. They may overlook some point, they may falsely interpret some point, they may put undue emphasis on some point. That can be the possibility. Um, Also, this case study approach, it takes into consideration the patient's past and present health related and environmental problems and issues. It is the method where the researcher focuses on the past of of a subject, of a sample. Now, there are also other characteristics also. The case study method can be used for solving personality problem, as is used by psychoanalyst Sigmund Freud. It takes into account the detailed interview with the subjects, interpretation of their thoughts, dreams, and action. Provide it those all things, they provide excellent example of case studies. It can be used in guidance, in counseling by the social workers and other practitioners for diagnosing particular condition or problem and recommending remedial measures. It can be used in psychology for descriptive research as a descriptive research approach for obtaining an in-depth analysis of a person and or group, and the various techniques may be applied on the subject, such as personal interviews, observation, psychometric tests, archival records, all these can be used. And how we can choose cases that for which kind of sample we will use case study. There can be critical cases, there can be extreme or deviant cases, there can be paradigmatic cases that which represents a particular thought orientation, the case which represents a particular thought orientation. Suppose this psychoanalysis, this psychoanalytic case presentation, those are paradigmatic cases. When we treat a patient with psychoanalytic uh, orientation, we impose a definite paradigm to study that case. There are different types of case study: illustrative case studies, exploratory case studies, cumulative case studies, critical instance case studies. All these you can go through. I think that will not be very difficult to understand. There are certain steps of case study like every other types of research. First of all, one has to determine in this particular case, in this particular method, the initial step will include determine the present status of the case or cases. When a clinical case comes to us, what we first ask them after asking the general information, that what is your current problem? What difficulties you are facing nowadays? So we need to determine the present status of the case. The next step is identifying the most probable antecedents of the case or cases. There we ask that how long you are facing this problem, what happened before this problem has started. This is the step 2. Step 3 is verification of antecedents or hypothesis. The behavior of slow learning of the child, that can be verified using observation, past history, interview. When some person has said that this has happened and after that this problem has started, we must verify it with the uh, person who has come, who are giving the case history, the caregiver. It may be caregiver, it may be partner, it may be friend. We may administer the test, different psychometric test. We may interview, we may check his mental status in order to verify the antecedent or hypothesis. Step 4 is diagnosis and remedial measures. Based on all these ways of data collection, their analysis and interpretation, we diagnose a case and suggest remedial measures. And then at the last step, we follow up the cases. That what happened after we have made the diagnosis or have suggested the remedial measures. There are different ways of case studies, that writing analysis of the case study. There may be panel of experts who can participate or listen to a particular presentation of the case. There can be analysis of similar type of case studies. There can be cross examination in order to overcome the bias of a single observer or a single researcher. A number of researchers may cross examine the case. That can happen. There are certain misconceptions. Uh, there are Fliebzerg in 2006 defined 5 misconceptions about case study research. Uh, One misconception is that theoretical knowledge is more valuable than concrete and practical knowledge, and therefore the case study cannot contribute to scientific development. That is not the thing. Case study can always contribute to scientific development. The case study is most useful for generating hypotheses, whereas other methods are more suitable for hypothesis testing and theory building. This is also not true. The case study may affect the bias tendency towards verification, that I have already discussed, that how you can overcome the bias. And sometimes it is difficult to summarize and develop general propositions. This is also not true. If you can do the case, if you can take the case history properly, if you can administer the tests and you can examine the mental status, you definitely can summarize properly from a case study. Let us end the discussion of MPC block 2 here. The only part left from this block is the experimental design, which we will consider in last two classes after finishing all the blocks. Not everybody can hear me. Hello. Those who are present, please say. Now you can't hear me. Tenzin has said that she can't hear me, or he, I don't know. Also, Asnit Kaur has said that voice is cracking. Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay. So there may be some local problem. Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Uh, then we will meet tomorrow again. I hope there won't be any problem anymore for creating this link and sharing. Thank you for listening today. We will continue with block 3 tomorrow. Okay.